The Instructor Podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.
Welcome to the Instructor Podcast, where we explore performance and the professional and personal sides of the job. As always, I am your splendid host, Terry Cook. I'm delighted to be here, even more delighted that you have chosen to listen, because we are back with another episode, and indeed another very special episode, because today's guest is someone that I have wanted on for a long time. Now, in the recording, I said that I first asked him on 2 years ago. Figured out since it was actually 4 years ago. So there you go. But today we are joined by Rachael Butler of Intelligent Instructor, and we cover a vast array of topics, including why we both get excited by road safety. But before we get stuck into today's episode, some of you may have seen on social media that I said recently that 2026 will be the last season, the last ever Instructor podcast, and that is true. 2026, we are doing almost a farewell tour. We've got some awesome stuff lined up for next year, but it's time for some changes. Throughout 2026, I'll explain some of the changes that are coming up. But one thing I will say is make sure you don't unsubscribe to this podcast feed. That's all I'm going to say for now. As I said, we've got some awesome stuff planned for 2026. Oh, maybe there'll be something different beyond that. Either way, it's going to be a cracking 13 months. So for now, let's get stuck into the show. We're now joined by the delightful Rachael Butler. How are we doing, Rachael?
I'm very well, thank you. That's the socially expected response, but the truth is I haven't slept very well for the last month. I'm fast approaching 50, and I have been struggling with sleeping recently. Not because of the podcast; it's been going on for about a month or so. So I've had little sleep, and my brain fog is off the charts. But apart from that, I'm perfect. Thank you.
There's a different topic we're going to start the show talking about, but do you know
Menopause.
what? Menopause. Well, let's do it. But before we do, I need to be self-indulgent because I need to say something, which is I am ridiculously grateful for you for coming on today. This I've been talking on social media about this being my most exciting guest for a long time, and it is because this is an episode that I didn't think I would ever record. I first spoke to you about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I asked you at that point, the first time I ever spoke to you, would you come on the podcast? In fact, you said you wouldn't come on the podcast before I even asked you. And I've asked you several times since you said no. And now you've agreed to come on. So thank you.
Yes, I can blame Diana for that, I think.
Why are you on the podcast? Now, feels like the second episode in a row where I've asked this question. Why have you now agreed to come on the podcast?
Well, it's Diana's fault. So, I can give her credit or give her blame. I'm not sure which yet, but Diana contacted me on a Saturday a while back and said she'd love me to go on her new podcast. And I think my exact words to her were, Terry will be really pissed off if I come on your podcast first. So I caved and contacted you and said, I'm in.
I won't be pissed off. I would riot. If I'd have noticed on my podcast feed one day that you had popped up on Inspire podcast, I would have been seething.
I know. I know.
But yes, so you have come on this podcast purely so that you can appear on with Diana. Okay, I understand
Absolutely. No, it's been a long time coming. So I'm very honoured to have been asked, to be honest, amongst all of your experts and leaders and game changers. So it's a real honour. So thank you.
No, I love it. Like I said, I've been quite excited to have you on because there's loads of stuff I want to talk to you about. But I do want to ask, why are you so tired? What's going on?
It's just menopause, I think, Terry. That's for probably another podcast. I know you've covered menopause, and some of the other guys have covered off menopause on their podcast too. It's just my age. It's just you go through cycles and stages. I've been in this transition period for quite a few years now, and sometimes, it's difficult to stay asleep, and it affects your brain. It affects your brain fog, your clarity, how you articulate yourself. So it's a perfect time to come on a podcast, really.
You practice on this one, then go and deliver a really good one with Diana.
Yes, exactly. This is my practice before Diana's. So,
Well, Let me ask you this. I just want to ask you a couple of questions around that, if I may,
Yeah.
because I'm obviously a bloke. I don't struggle with menopause. So I suppose just for the people listening, what would you say to anyone, like advice-wise or anything like that, that is maybe going through menopause or is worried about it coming up? And then the second bit would be, what about the blokes, the partners?
Yeah.
What could we do to support that better?
You need to run a mile. So I would say my advice for menopause, I'm not an expert in any way, but I've lived it, is that it happens much earlier than you realise. So when I was in my late 30s, I used to play a lot of tennis. I had a crush on my tennis coach, but that's for another podcast. And I had the most horrific hip pain and I couldn't work it out. And I had scans and physio, even had an MRI at one point. And in hindsight, looking back, I know that that was like one of my first ever symptoms, like joint pain. And it was horrific. But there's things you can do, like bone broth's really good. Sorry for any vegans out there, Terry. And supplements. But yeah, it happens a lot sooner than you think. So you might be having symptoms of menopause and not actually realise that it's happening to you. But I remember just before the first ever national conference and expo we did in 2019, I hadn't slept for months before then as well. But yeah, there's so many different stages and things that you go through, but it can be quite debilitating at times. So if you're having weird things going on, even if you're in your 30s, I'd say go to your GP. I've been on HRT for about 3 years now, and it is a game changer on the whole. But as I say, things do affect you. And I'm lucky. I get to sit in my office when I'm tired and nobody gets to see me on a average work day, apart from, Teams meetings and stuff. But for driving instructors, it's a different kettle of fish because the women out there that are going through menopause, they might not have slept. They might be struggling with brain fog, and they're there with a pupil is so much harder. So, in fact, having a menopause expert is somebody that I would love to come to the national conference in September. We've started to incorporate more health and well-being into our sessions. So I think it'd be really important. And I did actually want to try and get someone lined up for the one in September, but we were out. We had so many speakers already, so I couldn't incorporate that. But I think it would be useful. And there's actually for any female instructors out there on Facebook, there is a Facebook group for driving instructors going through menopause, which is really great. So have a look out for that. And for the husbands and partners, yeah, just be patient. That's all run a mile, one of those two.
Well, as driving instructors, if they can't be patient, someone's gone wrong somewhere.
Exactly that. But my son's 16, so yeah, we've got all sorts of hormones going on in this house. And my poor husband.
Anyone looking for a menopause expert should definitely seek out Hayley Field. I will put you in touch if you want me to, because she's amazing. But do you know what? You mentioned there, you said for a different podcast, and we touched on this very, very briefly. I touched on this very, very briefly with you a little while ago, that we should definitely do something next year called the Butler and Cook podcast. I just think it sounds good, the Butler and Cook podcast. Anyway, you mentioned brain fog. How do you deal with brain fog? Because I struggle with brain fog. How do you deal with it?
Yeah. It's really hard because I am a perfectionist at heart. And so, I might be in a meeting and my mind will just go completely blank. And it's awful. I've never really, until recent years, had this issue. And I would say at the moment, it's probably at the peak of being problematic for me. I'm on HRT, so that's supposed to help. And I take an enormous amount of supplements. And yeah, I try and feed my body and my brain with as much goodness as possible, keep hydrated. But yeah, it is a challenge. So hopefully I won't have to test your editing skills too much during this podcast. All the pauses.
I might, so don't worry about that. But one thing you did mention when you were talking before was you mentioned the conference, and you said that when we do the conference. So let me ask you that question. Who's we?
So I would say Gina Stores is amazing. So for anybody that doesn't know, Richard Stores is the founder of Intelligent Instructor and Gina is his wife. And so she's our events manager. So in terms of the organising with the venues and the logistics, that's the lion's share of that is down to Gina. And so she would be contacting all the speakers to get them involved. But as a team, we kind of think about the content and who to invite, which hot topics are good to include. So that's kind of thought very much as it's a team effort, but we work in partnership with the ADI and JC. So we have lots and lots of regular meetings behind the scenes in the run up to the event. So we've already started planning for next year's national conference to an extent, but our focus at the moment is very much on the convention. We're in March. So so it's many, many, many months of planning and hard work to pull off these events. And we're very lucky to partner with the ADI and JC.
I do want to come back and talk about the convention, but I need to know, what's your role at Intelligent Instructor?
Okay, so my role is initially when I joined in about 2016, so not long after the magazine had launched. My role there was primarily working on the commercial side, so in sales, so working with the advertisers, because we had all this brilliant content. So Paul Caddick was our magazine editor. To give you a little bit of background, Paul Caddick came from ADI News. Don't know if you remember ADI News. And he is an ex-BBC journalist, but he'd worked in the driver training industry under ADI News for a large number of years. Then the magazine was going to close. They were given a few weeks' notice. So Paul Caddick was very determined to find another publisher to get behind a magazine because he thought it was so essential for the industry to still have that independent publication, that independent voice. So he had recently interviewed James Evans and from First Car, the young driver publication. And so First Car with Richard Stores at the helm founded Intelligent Instructor. So Paul was the editor and I came in not long after the launch to help with the advertising and the revenue side, because without that, there is no publication. It's so much money and time to produce a magazine and to distribute it. And the magazine back then was distributed to 15,000. We had 15,000 copies. They were distributed across all of the test centres across the UK. And that's how instructors used to get the magazine. So that's a little bit of a history lesson for you there. And then in 2019, we kind of changed things up a bit. We launched the website as it is now, the website that we all know and love. And at the same time, we went into partnership with the ADI and JC and launched our first ever conference and expo. So that was a huge year for us. And in recent years, my role has kind of changed. So I'm now sales and marketing director. So I get very much involved in the content of our products. I get involved in product development, and then the marketing and commercial side is still a huge thing. So I work very closely with sponsors and exhibitors. But one thing I love so much is working with all of our contributors, because without the contributors, we wouldn't be as successful and as powerful and engaging as we are. We have so much content out there, and a large part of that is because of all the contributors that we work with. So I'm very grateful for that. So
You now have given you a platform now, Rachel.
yes.
Who's your favourite contributor?
Oh, stop it. I don't have a favourite.
Yeah, okay, let's move on. It's worth a try.
No, I don't have a favourite. But, we launched our membership club earlier this year. I'm sure we'll touch on that in more detail at some point during this podcast. But we have people like Mike Fowler, Ray Seagrave, Confident Drivers, yourself, Kit, Tom Stenson, Ollie Taylor, Inspire, Jeff Lucas. We've got so many people that all contribute to this every single month, and it's just such an amazing platform. So, yeah.
That's why you won the Instructor Podcast Award for being, what was it, the most well-known unknown person in the industry. But you mentioned marketing then. What you see a lot in our industry. So what do driving instructors get wrong when it comes to marketing? Obviously, that's quite a broad statement, but what are some of the common things you see?
I don't know, actually. It's a very good question. I think a big part of marketing is pricing. And I think when the magazine launched in 2016, prices back then were quite low across the board. I mean, obviously there's exceptions and I have to generalize. And I think since COVID, instructors have put their prices up because of the demand and the boom. They need to look at their business as a whole, their franchise costs, their car costs, their insurance, their accountancy costs, and really think about what they're charging. So pricing's a big thing for them to look at and reflect on and review their pricing. But also social media is so much more important. And I think you need to be where the peoples are. So do you have a good social media presence? Are you engaging? Are you posting your, past pictures and that kind of thing? And some people do it better than others. So yeah, just that kind of thing, really.
I love that. And I love speaking to people like yourself, people on the periphery of
Yeah.
the industry, if you like. You're in the ADI world, but you're not an instructor, if you like. So
I am not an instructor, no.
but you know everyone, and it's fascinating talking to you. So I'm keen to know from someone that, like I say, I'm always interested in this, from someone that's on the periphery, what are your thoughts on the driving instructor world?
Okay, so my thoughts on the world. Well, the world's changed quite a lot in the last 2 weeks. I don't think I've spoken to you since all the big
Oh,
announcements. So, current state of play, I would say change is a good thing. And I think it was inevitable that Loveday was going to step down. I was still surprised when it happened, when it did, though. And I think I'm not an instructor and I'm not part of an association, although obviously I am very closely linked with the ADI and JC. So I don't have the same level of frustration and anger directed to maybe Loveday and the DVSA as many instructors feel. And I also think that she came into this at a really challenging time. I'm going to use that COVID word, unprecedented. And I think it would have been almost impossible for anybody to have succeeded under the last few years. And in credit to her, she did always come to our conferences and face the public. So that's all credit to her. But she did need to step down and change is good. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen over at the DVSA in the coming months. I also think that it's good that the Ministry of Defence examiners are coming in. That will help a little bit, but they're only doing 1 day a week. And actually it's a drop in the ocean, really. And what else do I think about that? I think it's good that they're giving £5,000 to the examiners for retention and to stop people from retiring. So that will help. And I like the new changes to the practical test. I think it's really good that students will be doing more independent driving and they'll be doing more faster roads and more rural driving because that's real life. And so that's only a good thing for road safety. So that's kind of my summary of the last 2 weeks. I think it's really important going forwards for instructors to future-proof their businesses. So things like accountancy, for example. I'm self-employed, so I've always tended to do my own self-assessment, but I did have an accountant in the past. And I think with making tax digital coming in, I think it will be really important for instructors, if they're not already doing so, to utilise QuickBooks or a platform like that. I also think that they should use an accountant, perhaps, if they haven't already. Personally, now that it's going to Making Tax Digital and I'll have to do my tax returns and finances 4 times a year, I can't be doing with that. So I think pass the buck, pass that level of responsibility onto someone else and get them to do it and help you. But I also think in terms of future planning, look at the trends, look at where things are going. So as more and more people are going into automatic and EVs, do instructors need to change up and also teach, and leave manual? I think there's always going to be a need for manual, but maybe consider moving away and looking at it automatic as well.
I want to ask you as well specifically about driving instructors. Now, again, this is very broad, but you have worked with a lot of people in our industry,
Yep.
like one-to-one scenarios, like the master classes, and obviously arranging people to come to the expos and so on and so forth. But then also just the contact that you have with various different instructors on almost like a day-to-day basis sometimes. What are your thoughts on instructors as a whole?
I think instructors don't get enough credit for what they do. And the reason I say that is because I personally think that driving instruction is the biggest and best education that young people get. And I can say that because my son's doing GCSE mocks at the moment. And how much of your GCSEs can you remember, Terry? Because if I gave you my son's mock paper right now, could you do any of it? Can you remember a thing from school?
No.
I can't. And I think back to when I did my degree, and my degree was largely in marketing and business. So the principles of marketing are the same, but the content and the techniques and tactics, they're completely different. So everything I learned then is obsolete. But what you're doing, you're teaching people to drive, and people do remember that because they do it every day. It's part of their life, and it's ingrained, it's part of them. So what you're doing is teaching somebody to drive, to stay safe on the road, and that stays with them forever. Things that you do at GCSEs and university, you can forget those things. But I think driving instruction is something that people retain and use every single day for the rest of their lives. And I think driving instructors don't get enough credit for the teaching and the coaching that you actually do and the difference that you're making to people's lives. So that's what I think.
I like that. But I think I'm going to load this question, so forgive me, but
Yep.
how far apart is your opinion? How far apart do you think is your opinion on instructors to the general public's opinion on instructors?
That's a good question. And I have to say, I didn't appreciate all of this, how much you do, the impact you have, the influence you have over people's, until I joined this industry. And I think it's very easy for people like my husband who would say, I'm a brilliant driver, I can teach William to drive. Well, actually, no, you can't. There's so much more to it. People don't realise all of the training involved. I mean, just to qualify as a driving instructor is hard work, especially with all the wait times at the moment. But there is so much to it. There's a difference between being a driving instructor and being a coach. And I think it's just incredible, really, what you do. So, yeah, I'm in awe of the instructor.
Hello, my name is Stuart Lockery. I'm the founder at Bright Coaching. Driving instruction has changed. Today's learners need more than just skills and practice and reps to pass a driving test. They need coaching that addresses the higher levels of the GDE on every single lesson. That's why we created the Professional Diploma in Coaching and Behavioural Change for Safe Driving. This accredited qualification, equivalent to a BTEC Professional Award Level 4-5, gives you the tools and recognition to transform the way you teach. With Bright Coaching, you can leave the DVSA behind and step into a modern, learner-focused approach, one that shifts the paradigm of driver education for instructors, for pupils, and for parents all across the country. At Bright Coaching, we are training the next generation of driving instructors. Our next programme, Cohort 6, launches in Coventry on the 20th of March 2026, and we'd love you to join us. Please visit brightcoaching.net to sign up today.
Are you an ADI looking for something different? Well, at Drive Up Training, we don't offer franchises. We offer supporterships. And that means no long contracts, no hidden catches, just genuine support, development, and community. Our ADI development programme is designed to take your career further. And as part of the programme, you will have the chance to gain additional qualifications such as ROSPA and IEM Advanced Driving, your Level 3 awards in both education and training and coaching and mentoring, as well as the Bright Coaching Diploma. With Drive Up Training, you're not just teaching learners to drive. You're building a professional future backed by expert trainers, ongoing CPD, and a team that shares your values. So if you're ready to join a driving school with a difference, visit driveuptraining.co.uk today, where instructors grow and road safety wins.
I'm interested in your opinion on them, because obviously, I've done a lot of work over the past couple of years trying to bridge the gap between instructors and the road safety sector and that kind of stuff. So, how do we bridge the gap between instructors and the general public so they can see what you've just described? Have you got any ideas on that?
I think that's a good question. I think Kate Monk's app's brilliant. And I hope more parents will get to hear about it and use it. Because Kate Monk's app is for parents to supplement what the instructors are teaching their pupils during the lessons. And it's something that I bought. So William's 16, my son's 16, and I bought Kate Monk's app earlier this year. And I'm just about to start using it. And he's not learning at the moment. But I hope to be able to use that in the car with him after he's finished his mock. So that's my plan. We're going to go out over Christmas. He's going to be the passenger. But we can use the app and use the techniques like observation skills, anticipation skills, some gamification to kind of get him thinking about the road and his mindset before he even starts driving lessons. So I think that's a really brilliant resource and I'm looking forward to using that. But I think it's really important for it's really important for parents and instructors to kind of work in tandem, because parents have such a responsibility to influence their children and to encourage safe and reflective driving. Children look up to their parents as role models. So yeah, it's important that we get it right.
I remember seeing a Billy Connolly sketch years ago, and this is just coming to me as you were talking then, where it would talk about he got his belly button pierced. And I'm not going to do the accent, but he said, once he got it done, the chap that had done it said, that's one less of them and one more of us. And I always think of it like that with instructors. The more every instructor that moves over into this, from instructing to coaching, or from not worrying about road safety to road safety, or, this kind of stuff, it's one less of them and one more of us. It's a big swing the other way, every instructor that does it. And I just think that's it. The more instructors are buying to this, the more people, the more public is going to see it and the response to that. And the bigger that number is, I think the bigger effect it's going to have. But you mentioned about your son learning to drive.
Yep.
And I know we've spoke about this a little bit, but I'm curious because I reckon instructors will be interested to hear this from a parent's perspective of what are you looking for in an instructor for your son?
Yeah. Okay. This is an easy question to answer. So, having worked in this industry for almost 10 years, I'm really aware of all the killed and seriously injured statistics. And so road safety is always paramount for me. So I wouldn't even consider William coaching with a driving instructor that didn't have a focus on road safety. So the call's going to go, hello, it's Rachael from Intelligent Instructor. Do you teach the higher levels of the GDE matrix? I don't know how well that will be received, but it's so important. I mean, I would love William to have an honest truth instructor. That would be my ultimate, because it's such an amazing resource. I used to help at the Honest Truth a few years ago. I used to do like a couple of days a week. And it's brilliant. It's an amazing app. It's not in my area, so that's not an option. However, I'm thinking of maybe when William's qualified, sending him up to you or Gary or someone like that, giving him like a Pass Plus and a THT overview. So that's my plan. But yeah, there are some amazing instructors in my areas. I have been researching and checking them out. But yeah, they have to do road safety. They have to have a focus, because for me, I said this on a webinar this week, I don't care how many times my son fails his driving test. I don't care. That's not the end goal. The end goal is that he's a safe, responsible, reflective driver for life. That is the end goal. But I need that to be his end goal too. I want him to have that focus and that determination to be a good driver. So yeah, that's my thinking.
I mean, the first thing I need to say to that is I didn't realise this was a dream of mine, but I now have a dream that someone will ring me one day, ask me the question, do you teach the higher levels of the GDE matrix? When that happens, that's life accomplishment. But I think that what you just said there, going back to what I was saying before, that's the thing that's the attitude we want parents to have. That's the attitude we want learners to have. And we'll never get to a point where every single learner and every single parent is going to have that attitude, because we'll be in automated cars by then. But I think the more people we can swing that way by displaying that and talking about that, and you talking like that to your friends and stuff, I just think it's massive. But you almost get, I struggle to phrase this right, so forgive me, but you're a bit like me. You almost get excited by road safety.
I do.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Because it excites me. Why does it excite you?
Because that's all it boils down to, isn't it? It's so important. And I think as Intelligent Instructor, even before I was on board with Intelligent Instructor, it was a fundamental part of our brand and what we are about. So I was listening to a Dipod podcast with Paul Caddick when he first formed the magazine. So this podcast was like back in 2016, and he was talking about road safety and how much of an influence instructors have. And I was also talking to Ray Seagrave this week, and Ray said that he met with an officer from, I think, Warwickshire Constabulary, who said that his job is to knock on people's doors and deliver bad news. And he said to Ray that it's your job you're at the start of that process. You have so much influence, so get it right, And I really believe that that's the truth. It does excite me, but it's more of a passion, I think. I think I've seen the impact that devastation has had on families. And I think having a son that's fast approaching that age, that risky age, it's always at the forefront of my mind. So I'm very passionate about it. And it's not just him being safe, it's him being a passenger in his friend's car as well. So kind of want to make sure that all of his friends, his friendship group, have good instructors. And that's, how do I do that? Apart from speaking to their parents and saying, go with this person, do the honest truth, have the parents app. Yeah. So I just try and have those conversations with some of my friends, really.
It's giving your son the power to say no as well. That idea of he doesn't have to get in the car with his mates. You can instill that in him.
I
straight
know.
away.
I know. exactly that. And that's such a key point. And I know there's a case of Kate Monk when she had a pupil that had gone through the honest truth, and that pupil didn't get into a car that was then involved in an RTA, and there were fatalities. And it's, that's amazing that pupil is alive as a result of having that road safety intervention. And I love that. But also, how tragic is that?
Yeah, very. I mean, but I think that's not. No, I think I see it too often where someone needs to die for anything to happen or for someone to care. And I think, like, when I think about getting excited by road safety, it's the wrong term, getting excited by it, but I can't think of a better one. But I think that, like, for me, maybe it's exactly the same as you. It's that idea of I could help prevent that. And whether that's through giving a kid the confidence to say, I'm not getting in that car, or
Yeah.
pull up, or please don't drive this fast, or dad, put your phone down, or whatever it is. Or whether it's through me helping someone reconsider their driving. I think that is, I don't know, I get excited by that idea. But I think the other thing, and maybe this falls into, I'd be interested if this does fall into as well, because of what you mentioned before. That's where it gets interesting. You mentioned the GDE before, so I wonder if this works for you, because it's like, you learn to be an instructor, and yeah, it's quite interesting, but then you really get into the nitty-gritty of the GDE and psychology and all this kind of stuff. It's like, then it gets really interesting.
It really is. So I love the psychology of it. And I think Lee Jowett's brilliant at coaching about psychology. And in Ray's session on his masterclass this week, he went into the psychology of behavior and talked about cognitive dissonance. And that was really fascinating, because for me, I would consider myself a fairly safe and mindful driver and considered driver. But with cognitive dissonance, if you make a mistake and you tell yourself, I'm a safe driver, if you do make a mistake, then those people tend to have a habit of blaming the environment around them and other people rather than taking responsibility. And I think we all have a job to reflect and look at our driving and take accountability when we do make mistakes. But also, Ray looked at 7 different driver personality types, which I'd never heard of before. And that was fascinating, because it's about coaching the different personality types to be mindful of the other personality type so that there's no clashes, and also to encourage them and question them to find out why they're acting a certain way on the road, why they're getting frustrated, why they're hesitating, and question them to find out what's going on in their mind. I just find that really fascinating. So I took loads of notes from that session, because I'm going to use it when I coach William, when I'm in the car doing practice with him. So it'd be really useful I've got an idea of the type of driver he'll start off as being, and the personality type. So it's about, pulling that psychology together and questioning and developing his mindset. Love it.
Personality type, do you think it'll be?
So I think my son is the type that is emotionally reactive to what's going on around him. So people like that tend to get easily frustrated, easily irritated and upset by pushy drivers. So it's about coaching them to kind of recognise that.
I'll be honest, the only reason I ask you that is so that I can take that clip, and then when you find out your son's going to be different to that, I can play it back to you. There you go.
Me for me.
But you mentioned Ray there, you mentioned a few others around the masterclasses, and you get to sit in. Do you know what? I've just actually, as I'm saying this, this is something that me and you have in common. Over the last 5 years, I've had probably like close to 1,000 hours of conversations with people for the podcast, for premium, all this kind of stuff, instructors and psychologists and doctors and professors and road safety, all these people. And I've just learned so much, and it's almost been like one-to-one training for me in a lot of ways. You've had something very similar. You get to sit in and run all these masterclasses by all these people. So is there any that stand out for you? Either people or topics or themes?
That's a good question. Yes, there are definitely people that stand out for me. I'd rather not say.
What about themes or topics?
But the
You mentioned
themes
relative.
and topics, probably doesn't come as any surprise that the ones with psychology, the ones with road safety, the risk management ones, I think are really powerful and really effective. And I think it's really important for instructors to keep up their CPD and to, there was a session recently with Kevin and Neil, and they were talking about actually driving instructors. You're not instructors, you're teachers. And I couldn't agree more. I think coaching and being a teacher is so important. And it's not about instructing, it's about helping the pupil to learn themselves. And that makes learning quicker, because if you're coaching them to make up their own mind and their own thoughts and beliefs. So it helps them to learn much faster, more effectively.
Do you find at Intelligent Instructor that there's a difference in numbers of people participating? For example, if you did something specifically around the standards check to something on psychology or road safety, is there a difference there in numbers?
I would say, unfortunately, yes.
And does that skew in favour of the standards check stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's important. I mean, that's core, isn't it? It's essential. Things like risk management, teaching and learning strategies, lesson planning, they're always going to pull in the large numbers. But I have to say, there are people that come to my sessions. So I do the Intelligent Instructor Masterclasses, but I also do the Intelligent Instructor Plus webinars as well. And there are people that come to absolutely everything, month after month. And I think hats off to them.
do you find that, sorry, I'm interrupting you here, but do you find that sometimes people come along to those ones that aren't standard check stuff? Because I know you get a lot of feedback from these sessions. Do you find that they're pleasantly surprised? And they're suddenly like, oh, right, I'm going to come to more of these, because they didn't realise or didn't embrace it initially, but then they come and say, oh, great, and then they get excited to start coming to more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it. I love that people come every time. It's so good. And we do get amazing feedback. Absolutely. In fact, we've just turned on our Facebook reviews function because we get such amazing feedback, and it's good to be able to put that on a platform for people to add their comments and to see that for themselves, especially for the people that are new to the industry. It's nice for them to see what we're offering the industry. So anybody go onto Facebook and leave us a review. I'd be very grateful for that. But yeah, I think what's really fascinating, and I was talking to Sean Hellman about this recently, because he's doing a session with us for Intelligent Instructor Plus in the new year. And it's all about gender differences between guys and girls and how they pass their tests. So girls are more likely to pass their theory and study hard for that, and boys are more likely to pass their driving test first time round. And that's really fascinating. And he'll be sharing his insight in the webinar in the new year and helping instructors to use that knowledge in their coaching. But I was talking to Sean with my own gender analysis, and obviously I'm not a chief scientist like he is. But what I have noticed is that our industry is still so heavily dominated by men. It's about 65%, I think, are men. But the people that come to the CPD classes, online and in person, it's a 50-50 split. And I'm fascinated by that. Why is that? I'd love for somebody to explore that in more detail. Is it because once a guy has got his green badge, he thinks, I know this, I don't need to do CPD? Is it that women enjoy CPD more? Is it that they feel like they have to keep up with their male counterparts? I mean, there could be any number of reasons. Do you have an idea why that might be?
There's a joke here somewhere about mansplaining, and I can't quite put my finger, which is a shame. But it's interesting you say it though, because I've said this for years that my podcast is pretty much a 50-50 split, and I can see the audience gender, and I think it's like 49 and 2% non-binary.
Yeah,
And yeah, and I've always thought the same as you. It's interesting, and I don't know why, but I've been looking into sort of this year a lot of the way that different people behave and different men and women, and obviously not in a deep research way, just a curiosity way, but I think women tend to be a bit more curious. And I think men tend to assume they already know stuff. And I include myself in that. One of my big challenges, and I've spoken about this a lot over last year, is my ego. It's having to pattern down my ego and let a guest come on and let you come on and say your stuff without me interrupting every 5 minutes going, oh, I know that. Let me tell you my awesome thing now. And to let the people do that. And it's not exclusively a man thing, but I do think that men naturally gravitate towards, I know this, I can do this, I don't need help. And I think it stems from a good place. I think it stems from that protector instinct, the hunter-gatherer almost type of instinct. And I think, like I say, that we women, I think it tends to be more, I don't know this. I need someone to tell me this. And then that can potentially come from a lack of confidence. I don't know if you'd agree with that or...
Yeah, no, I do think it could be a lack of confidence thing. Playing a large part. I mean, I quite often, would go on masterclasses and, I'm on various self-development apps and whatever. And a large part of those topics that I tend to go on is a confidence thing, self-confidence thing. I think women, our roles change. I was much more confident, I think, in my younger days, in my earlier career. And then, having my son and now menopause age, it does knock your confidence. So yeah, I think confidence is a big factor there. But I had another hypothesis that I gave to Sean Hellman as well. I think that regardless of gender, I think those instructors that do keep up with regular CPD, I hypothesize that they are much more likely to be bothered and concerned about road safety. That's my hypothesis, and I'd love someone to explore that in more detail.
Maybe this is what I'm looking next year, but yeah, I think I'd probably concur with that, just from anecdotal evidence that the amount of times that I'll put a poll up in my membership or whatever and say, which of the 3 topics do you like, the in-car, the business, or the health, and my classes in-car is including road safety, but people will always put as a 4th category and say road safety. So yeah, those are people that are specifically coming for CPD. So yeah, I think that you're right. I think we don't need to get anyone to research it. We've solved it. It's confidence, mansplaining, and road safety. There you go. Problem solved.
Hello, my name is Stuart Lockery. I'm the founder at Bright Coaching. Driving instruction has changed. Today's learners need more than just skills and practice and reps to pass a driving test. They need coaching that addresses the higher levels of the GDE on every single lesson. That's why we created the Professional Diploma in Coaching and Behavioural Change for Safe Driving. This accredited qualification, equivalent to a BTEC Professional Award Level 4-5, gives you the tools and recognition to transform the way you teach. With Bright Coaching, you can leave the DVSA behind and step into a modern, learner-focused approach, one that shifts the paradigm of driver education for instructors, for pupils, and for parents all across the country. At Bright Coaching, we are training the next generation of driving instructors. Our next programme, Cohort 6, launches in Coventry on the 20th of March 2026, and we'd love you to join us. Please visit brightcoaching.net to sign up today.
Are you a PDI ready to start your journey to becoming a driving instructor? Then it's time to drive up your future with Drive Up Training. At Drive Up Training, we believe the journey to qualifying should be as empowering as the career that follows. We don't just teach you the basics or teach you to pass a test. Using coaching techniques, we provide you the skills to inspire, lead, and build safe, confident drivers for life. Our mission is to create forward-thinking, safe drivers so that our roads are much safer. To achieve this, we educate and develop road safety specialists who know how to coach real-world driving skills. That saves lives, and how to transfer those skills to learners. Our expert trainers are passionate professionals who care about more than just qualifications. They care about people. With road safety at the core of everything we do, we shape the instructors who shape the next generation of drivers. Honesty, professionalism, and compassion are the values that drive us, because you're not just learning to instruct, you're learning to make a difference. So, if you're serious about starting your instructor journey the right way, start it with Drive Up Training. For more information, please visit our website at www.drive-up-training.co.uk or call us today on 0330 133 2669.
I want to come back to Intelligent Instructor, though, because I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us about the convention.
The convention is my favourite of all of our events every year. It's very different to the national conference, which is huge. We have loads of people. It's a free event, and we had about 1,800 in September. The convention is much smaller, so it's a much more intimate event. People pay to attend. It's a formal agenda, so everybody goes to the same sessions, and then they come out and have breaks and lunch. And during those times, they get to meet our many suppliers and exhibitors. And it's really designed for instructors who really are passionate about self-development, career development, and improving their business. So it's a real rich, varied agenda to kind of motivate and inspire and get people energized. So yeah, I love it. It's a great event, and it follows the awards the night prior. So we can talk about that in a minute.
I really like the convention. I've been to the last two, and slightly don't know quite how I feel about next year's, because the last two I've kind of said, I like this. This feels like my CPD event. I don't want to get involved in this. I just want to come and with a notepad or record or whatever and just enjoy it. And somehow I've been roped into to presenting this one. So me and Tom are doing a Tom and Terry, and we're going back in time. I'm quite looking forward to that.
I know. I'm looking forward to that too. I don't have the details of your session actually, because you haven't sent your speaker form back in to Gina.
I'm literally writing it up after this. It's on my to-do list. It would have been done by now, actually, if someone had turned up to record at the planned time, but whatever. Yeah. But no, I love the convention and the awards as well. As you said, that's the night before. I wasn't so keen on the awards this year simply because I got bullied by a magician. But
you did. Yeah, sorry about that.
Come and sit next to me at the front, Terry. It'll be fun, you said. Anyway, tell us about the awards and like where people can find more information on them, and then a bit about that evening as well.
Yep. So our brand new awards website went live about 3 weeks ago. So people can literally just go to the Intelligent Instructor website and click on the awards tab there. And I love the awards. And I know awards aren't for everybody. Some people don't like to nominate themselves and put themselves forward. I had one of the industry's most wonderful trainers speak to me a week or so ago and said, I don't like nominating myself for these things. But my response is, why ever not? Because it's really important to give credit where credit's due and to celebrate all of the wonderful achievements in our very niche and wonderful industry. So we really encourage and want as many instructors as possible to enter and to get involved. And it's growing every year. And we've got more categories this year than ever before. We've got 4 brand new categories. We've got a Road Safety Initiative of the Year. And we've always had in all of the criteria, so there's criteria for all of the categories, and road safety features in quite a lot of the categories, many of the awards. But we thought we'd have a standalone category this year because there are some great initiatives out there that we really need to recognise and celebrate. So that was the thinking behind that one. We've got Social Media Influencer of the Year because there are some really creative people out there on social media that do a great job at engaging and supporting other instructors. So they're the types of people that we want to hear from. And then Training Provider of the Year. That's something we've always had, but we thought we'd change it up this time round because we wanted it to be a better reflection on how people actually train in the industry and undertake CPD. Training Provider of the Year historically used to be won by national driving schools, but we wanted to change it up a bit and for it to be a better reflection of how people actually train in the industry. So yes, they go to national driving schools a lot of the time or regional driving schools, but also a lot of people use independent training providers, and there are many brilliant ones out there. And so we've changed it up so that it's a better reflection of how people actually train. So we wanted to celebrate both kind of the main routes into training. So
we haven't spoke about the awards yet, me and you, and I'm always honest with this stuff because I feel like I need to clarify that I love you, Rachael, and I like Intelligent Instructor because I've been full of praise for them. I've got issues, and I'm gonna have a little rant, and then you can either shut me up or move on or whatever. I don't care, but I've got issues with some of these awards. So first of all, Social Media Influencer, I'm going to be so annoyed at that award. If I go to that evening and there are people, I would hazard a guess that the person that wins that award is going to make me really angry because there are a lot of social media influencers out there that, talk to learners and stuff that I think genuinely do harm to, well, road safety and our industry and our profession. So that is something that concerns me.
we're looking for the influencers out there that aren't communicating with pupils. It's specifically for those that engage and support and encourage other driving instructors. So it's slightly different to your thinking that it's those people that are communicating with pupils. We're looking for the people that engage with instructors.
Even with that, there's still an awful lot of this is my issue with this, the influencer thing, and I appreciate I could fall into this category when I say this or whatever, but there are influencers out there on TikTok or Instagram, whatever, that they get bigger, they get more famous, they get more popular because they say the things that people want to hear. We mentioned Love Day Rider before. The TikTok was amazingly crap that day because every headline by every driving out of social media, DVSA CEO resigns in disgrace, and it's just like spouting nonsense about it. And I hope sincerely that I am proved wrong with this, genuinely. I really, really hope.
As well, that they have to answer set questions when they answer the awards, and they have to demonstrate and prove how they're making a difference, how they're influencing and supporting others. So I think we'll whittle out the people perhaps that you're maybe concerned with. So
again, I'm not meaning to dig at this too much, but I also appreciate it's weighted. You've got the judges who I've seen that judging panel, and you've also got the votes. And obviously, if you've got a social media channel with 17 billion followers, you're going to win those votes. So, look, my concern is that we wind up promoting the wrong people, and that isn't a fault of Intelligent Instructor because you have created an award. And if someone wins it, and through my opinion only when I say this, it is not the best person to be showcasing. I can see the negative ramifications of that. Like I said, I hope I'm proved wrong. I think that the award just opens up, sounds bad, but I don't know how to phrase it, almost like a dangerous precedent, if that makes sense. But I do understand where you're coming from.
It does make sense. I mean, I had exactly the same concerns about the person that was going to win Content Creator of the Year last year, to be fair.
He was a dick, though, so.
There's a really kind of watertight criteria. So, and also, I mean, look at the judges. A lot of them are from the road safety industry. So, yeah, there's going to be that consideration when they're choosing people for the shortlist.
The other one was the training. So again, this is where I'm slightly undecided on this. Maybe you can convince me. One, I'm pleased you've split the award because, as you mentioned, get win by a national driving school, partly because of the volume of votes that they could get. I think that it still bugs me a little bit that national driving schools are winning Training Provider of the Year because maybe it's just a me thing. Maybe it's just a wording thing. I don't know. They should be winning Driving School of the Year, not National Driving School of the Year, not Training Provider of the Year, because whenever I speak to, you look at the people that you mentioned today, the likes of Lee Jowett, Ray Seagrave, Kev Field, and the others that you mentioned, whenever I speak to these people and myself, one of the biggest problems that we face in this industry is the way that PDIs are trained. And it so often falls back to the national driving schools. Not always the individual trainers, there are some good ones within that, but the format that they're trained under and some of the poor training that they get and the way that is structured. And so often it falls back to national driving schools. And I think that that's where my bee in the bonnet is a little bit, that it's the award for Training Provider of the Year and not National Driving School of the Year. And because that's where a lot of the problems stem from. And I appreciate that I could get myself in trouble for saying that. And I won't be in a lot of the National Driving School's good books when I say that, but that's my concern with that.
So with the Training Provider of the Year driving school, it's not just open to the nationals, it's open to regional driving schools too. And we have had many entries already through for those.
But what I will say is I am really pleased with that road safety initiative. I think there's some really cool ones we can put in there. You mentioned Kate Monk's My Learner Driver. There's obviously Honest Truth. And there's countless others. I'm not going to mention them all. I shouldn't mention them because now I've promoted them when I didn't mean to. But either way, there's all kinds of stuff there. And I do like the awards because they were my two concerns. And I haven't entered yet, and I don't know if I will, but that's probably a time thing. And also, I won it once. Don't need to do it again. There's a laziness on my part there. Should I enter again, Rachel?
Sorry, you
Should I enter again?
100% you should enter. I'll be upset if you don't.
And should I enter on the content creator or social media influencer?
I'll leave that to you to decide.
Or you might say that. Content creator. Okay, is there anything else you want to touch on with the awards?
Well, we had 100 award entries last time, and we had a record 5,000 learners nominating over 500 instructors last year. So that's incredible, really. And we want to keep up the momentum. So with the Driving Instructor of the Year, that category is slightly different. So instructors don't get to nominate themselves. It's their pupils. So what we need is for instructors to give that link to their pupils so that those pupils can vote for them. But what we also do, we canvass First Car's database, so the Young Driver brand. We canvass their database of 150,000 learner drivers and newly qualified drivers, and we ask them to vote as well. So yeah, and you've won one, haven't you?
In second, and I don't know if I've told this story publicly before, so I'm going to tell it very, very briefly because it's one of my favourite stories of all time. And I got the silver award for the instructor in Yorkshire, second best instructor in Yorkshire and Humber. And I was sat there at the awards with my silver award, second best. That is key to this story, second best award. And Dr. Box and Mira Naran came over for a chat, and Mira was saying she was a bit nervous about talking in front of instructors, to which I said, don't worry, they'll all like you. And if they don't, I'm the best one anyway. To which Dr. Box replied, not according to your award.
Love that.
Which is excellent. But do you know what? On that, in theory, a driving instructor could win the Instructor of the Year award without actually nominating themselves to the students because you canvass First Car.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think that may have happened with you actually, Terry, because I don't think you realised that. Yeah.
No, I didn't. But the other thing I will just touch on this actually, because obviously I'm a working instructor, almost like sabbatical at the minute, but I'm a working instructor. And one of the comments I see a lot, and I hear at test centers and stuff, is people saying, "Oh, it's just the person who asks the students the most, and I don't like asking and stuff." And I just think, in the years when I've entered, I've always finished like top 100 or whatever, and I just send them a text and just say, "Guys, just so you know, I'm in for the award for Driving Instructor of the Year. If you'd like to vote for me, here's a link. If you don't, completely fine, I understand." And I send it to everyone that's passed in the last year. Not everyone, some people I know won't. So, and I send it to that, and that's it. And there's no chasing, there's no nagging involved. It's just a nice, pleasant text.
Definitely. You need to be rewarded for everything that you guys are doing. So go for it. What have you got to lose? Nothing. And you get to come along and wear a fancy outfit, a nice dress or a black tie.
What would you like to finish off? What message would you like to leave driving instructors with?
So we've got our 10-year anniversary coming up. Well, going back, first and foremost, I'll just say the nominations to enter the awards close on the 14th of December. So there's a couple of weeks left. So everyone get involved in that. But yes, going forwards, it's our 10-year anniversary coming up. And we've got lots to celebrate because there's been a lot that we've done over the last few years. And we want to thank all of the people that have been with us on our journey and all of the contributors and our readers and people that come to our events. A lot to celebrate. And I just want to read a few statistics, Terry, because Rich has been working hard and has pulled out some amazing statistics, which I'd like to read because they're pretty amazing. So we've organised 10 national conferences. We've welcomed over 8,000 visitors. We've presented 411 awards. We've sent out 18 million emails. We've published 55 magazines. We've had 1.1 million views on our website and delivered 103 online training sessions, supported 200 commercial clients, and have executed 2,000 digital campaigns. That's quite a lot, isn't it?
The 18 million emails. I'm just thinking of my MailChimp account and thinking of the cost. I don't want to know.
So quite remarkable. So in December, we are celebrating our anniversary by giving people a real good feel for our Intelligent Instructor membership club. And we shall be giving away some free content. And we've also got to an amazing competition as well. So yeah, we've got lots to celebrate. So that's coming up soon.
Awesome. Well, there'll be links for all that stuff in the show notes and the accompanying episode workbook. But all that's left for me to say is it may have taken 2 years, but I've thoroughly enjoyed today. So thank you.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
The Instructor Podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.